السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. إنا أنزلناه قرآنا عربيا لعلكم تعقلون. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. آمين يا رب العالمين. Thanks for tuning in. I hope that this message reaches everyone that I think needs to hear it, particularly for those of you that took the courage to try and study Arabic with me for 10 consecutive days and made the sacrifice of time and effort. This is pertaining to you, but actually before I make the announcement, I wanted to give you a little bit of background and help you understand some things about the way I operate my career and really, what I do with Bayyinah. Bayyinah is essentially, it's an extension of myself, even though it's an organization and I've tried to do a lot with it. At the end of the day, it's really an extension of what I believe I wanted to do with my life. And the thing about that is that when I started this project, I had a couple of, I guess you can call them philosophies. And one of them was that I don't want to have an organization or do work that I find is meaningful and beneficial to people, but I don't want to do it if I have to ask people to or depend on donations to do it. Like if I don't want to have to be in that position. Because I personally saw many organizations, Islamic organizations, that depended entirely on donations. And then what happens in those organizations is that they end up becoming pretty much all the time influenced by those who donate to them, right? And so and then their focus itself becomes raising funds. So instead of their focus being on providing a service, their focus is more, how are we going to get the next however many dollars or however many whatever currency, right? And how are we going to build our expansion? So they're constantly concerned about raising money, and it takes away from what they were actually trying to do in the beginning. And from a person who's sitting there listening to their ask for donations and calls for whatever, you start getting fatigued. Like all they do is all ask for money. Like why can't we get anything else? Like a lot of times you go to a masjid sometimes and you're sitting in prayer and you feel like you're being held hostage because you're being asked for. And so I felt like it's not good. It's not integrity, at least for me. I don't speak for those organizations. I speak for myself. I didn't feel right doing something when I have to ask somebody for a donation or a handout and then say I'm doing it for the sake of Allah. So I wanted to develop an alternative model. And what I ended up with is what nowadays, people in the business world call socially responsible entrepreneurship, right? Or socially responsible businesses. The idea that you create something that provides a service and it can afford itself. So I can pay the bills for myself. I can take care of myself, but the organization can sustain itself and expand and do bigger and better things and keep on growing. But the way it does that is not by two things. It's not by charging tuitions or charging high tuitions, and it's not by asking for donations. So you make whatever service it is, you make it as affordable as you possibly can, to as many people as you possibly can. And I don't say this out of arrogance or as any sense of superiority. Yesterday I gave a lecture entirely, about confidence and arrogance and humility. So on the one hand, I'm extremely grateful that Allah has given me the opportunities in life that He's given me. And on the other hand, I'm also very clear about what gift Allah has given me. I know I'm a good teacher. I know the experience that I have and the team that I was able to build, and mashallah, all of us together, the kind of materials we put together, the kind of professionalism we brought to Arabic education is revolutionary. And it is, I used to teach at a college. That's way before even this experience. I used to be a professor in a college. And I know what this education is worth in the real world, in the market sense of the world. But that doesn't matter. What mattered to me was you want to provide something that's worth hundreds of times more, but you want to provide it at a cost that is hundreds of times less, so that you raise the bar on the quality of education that can be provided, and you set a standard for how that can be done without people going bankrupt or without people thinking, man, I wish I could afford it. So when I started, I didn't have any money anyway. I didn't have much to begin with, but I had this philosophy. So when I would go and teach this same 10 days that you guys attended, the first time I taught it in a different state, I got invited to teach there. I taught locally in New York, and then somebody said, I have a cousin in this other state. Can you go there? They'd really like to take this class. And I was surprised. I thought it would be like 10 people showing up to a class, and on the second day there'll be 3 people, and then on the fourth day there'll somebody's walima and nobody's showing up, and I'm sitting there teaching myself. But in fact, first day was 50 people, next day was 60 people. By the 10th day we had 100. The numbers increased instead of going down. So it shocked me. And then when I went to other states and I taught in other communities, even though this is before YouTube, this is like in the 1800s, guys. Like, people started coming and attending and really enjoying and learning, and old and young and children, and people with a lot of background, people that just took Shahada 2 weeks ago, all kinds of people. And then came the issue of, well, you have to charge these people tuition, because I have to be able to afford the flight where I'm going to stay. Actually, I couldn't even afford to stay in a hotel back then. I used to have an entire documentation sending it to a community. Hey, I'll live in the masjid. It doesn't matter. I'll live under the imam's desk. And I've done that. And I've lived on people's couches so I can teach this course, because I couldn't afford to do anything else. And the whole thing was, well, if you let me teach at this masjid, then whatever tuitions are collected, a percentage of that will go back towards the masjid. And then I created another policy, which all of my other friends who were in different Islamic organizations said, you're crazy. I said, no, I'm not crazy. Well, what was the crazy policy? If you can't afford it, it's okay. You don't have to explain yourself. You don't have to tell me why you can't afford it. You don't have to sign a waiver. You can just sit in class. And if you can't afford it, you'll just give at the registration desk on your own. So there's no like security band where you come in, and there's no massive registration. That's how it started. And I was completely happy with that. Why? Because I believed I couldn't afford it if I wanted it, but not when I was working. And $100 was, a lot of money for me at that time. So I can appreciate people that it's hard to earn. So I don't want them to be in a position where they have to choose between being able to learn the language of Allah's book and, sacrificing food on the table. I didn't want people to be put in that position. And yes, there are people like that in America too, right? So when I created that policy, it was incredible. The reaction was incredible. The reaction was, people will come up to me and say, actually, I can afford it, and I wasn't going to pay anyway because I'm not used to paying for anything. But I paid just because you said it's free for those who can't afford it. So people's integrity kicked in, and they gave tuition. And the organization started getting, kind of self-reliant. And I wanted to carry that policy on. The policy of, we need to sustain ourselves as an organization. And to be able to do that, we have to have tuitions. But tuitions should not be a barrier to entry for anybody. But then when Bayyinah kind of, I don't know how, but it exploded by Allah's permission. And it just got so huge that I would go to venues and places like, last time I was in Indonesia and, some other places when I would go there, and thousands of people want to come and attend, and there's not enough seats. And the fire marshal's coming and telling us to shut the building down, and that kind of stuff started happening. And even though my original policy was let everybody through the door, it doesn't matter. The register didn't register. It's okay. If they want to register, they can. If they didn't, it's okay. That doesn't matter. Let them through. Allah knows their intention. If somebody wants to just take advantage of it, that's between them and Allah. What do I know? But at the very least, if somebody couldn't afford it and they weren't made to feel embarrassed about it, they didn't have to put out their inability in front of people. The dignity of a person is that they don't feel dependent on other people. They feel that they don't have to rely on someone else and put their hand out. Dignity is an important thing. I've been in a position in life before. It's happened to me. I've been robbed before of all of my savings. That's happened to me before. And when that happened, I had to borrow money, and it was the most embarrassing thing I've ever done in my life. One of the most embarrassing things that's ever happened to me. So I know what that feels like. Anyway, fast forward, here we are in 2020, and the coronavirus hits, and I haven't been able to teach Arabic for a while. And I'm feeling the itch to do so, because I feel, even though I've taught this material for literally 20 years, what I know, you guys, the students, what you feel when you figure out a mudaf and mudaf ilayh, and the tears that come out of your eyes when you can tell what's happening, or when you can recognize a pronoun, and you're like, man, I thought this was completely inaccessible, but now at least my feet are wet. I can feel something. I recognize something. My ears perked up when I heard Quran. that feeling that you get is my ultimate high. Like, nothing is more valuable to me than the light bulbs going off on top of your heads. Nothing is more valuable. So, but my vision was, I want to make Bayyinah so successful, financially so successful, that not only does it not need funds, but it actually takes initiatives around the world. How can we introduce the Quran to villages in Indonesia or in Pakistan? How can we introduce Quran education in Bangladesh? How can we, revolutionize how women are being taught in the Muslim world? How can we, transform how children's education works? How can we invest in quality short films with the best producers, like big grand vision type stuff? How can we revolutionize Arabic education at the university level or even high school level, so kids around the world, Muslim kids around the world, have a deep connection with the Quran by the time they're 15, 16 years old? You don't think that's possible? What you did in 10 days, imagine somebody had 10 years, from the age of 10 to 20, or 5 years, 4 years. How much can they know? Is that stuff possible? Yeah, but that big vision takes, big planning, and it takes massive support. So the crazy idea was, make bayyinahTV as affordable as possible. And I know that when I say affordable as possible, some of you listening in Pakistan, some of you from India, some of you from Bangladesh, some of you from struggling countries in the world economically, and especially in this time, $11 a month sounds like an insane number. It's crazy. But for so many Muslims that are more blessed, that have an easier life, that for who can afford, that's actually rather insignificant. They spend more than that on a quick drive-through in a Starbucks. They spend more than that just getting French fries or something. It's casual for them. So the idea was, people who can afford should study, and also help people who cannot afford, so that this organization can grow. And that was kind of the idea of the gift program that was there. And it was working. And subhanAllah, there are people that have sponsored from different people around the world. And it's so beautiful, right? Because you don't know somebody who's in the other on the other end of the planet, and they're studying Quran, and they're making dua for you, and things in your life are getting better because of this person's dua, because they're studying Quran, and the angels are surrounding them. وَحَفَّتْهُمُ الْمَلَائِكَةُ وَذَكَرَهُمُ اللَّهُ فِي مَنْ عِنْدَهُ. Like, angels surround them, and Allah mentions them in His company of highest angels, because they're studying Quran, and those people are making dua for you. It was a pretty epic idea, I thought, and it's working. But then I didn't anticipate that with the 10-day class that we had, that there would be that many of you. Like, I thought it would be 1,000 people, 2,000 people. You're in the tens of thousands of thousands of thousands. And it's humbling. And the emails that you've sent me, the messages that you've sent me, the stories that you've sent me are overwhelming. They really are. Like, I feel so blessed from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that I have this chance to be a part of your journey into the Quran. Like, I don't deserve that, but Allah gave me that opportunity, and Allah gave you that opportunity. Now, coming to this announcement, there's several hundred people that, technical issues aside, several hundred people applied for a sponsorship for the Dream program. They attended the 10-day program. They wrote to me and they said, I'm in this country or this country or this country. The economy is really bad right now. I can't afford it. Please help me find a sponsor. And we don't have sponsors for them yet. And there's several hundred of them, maybe even in the thousands. And I went to my team, who are inundated, because, this migration's happening, and they're inundated with technical, helping people log in, and lots of people have been helped. Lots of people are on the way of being helped. And I said, I have a new problem for you guys. I said this to them literally yesterday. I have a new problem for you guys. They said, what? I said, well, everybody who's applied for a sponsorship, it doesn't matter if we found them a sponsor or not. I want you to give them a free year subscription. I want them to be able to study, and this should not be a barrier to entry for them. And if over the course of the year, somebody comes along and says they want to sponsor them, well and good. If they don't, well and good. Allah is the provider. Their du'as are more valuable than money. So the announcement is that all of you that asked for a sponsorship because you couldn't afford it, and you put in the work for the first 10 days, and you did apply for a Dream gift subscription, are going to be issued that gift subscription, whether or not we found you a sponsor. We're sponsoring it. We're carrying it. And those of you that didn't get a chance to do so or were having issues doing so, what I'd like you to do is I've told the tech team to keep that open for the next hour or so, or about an hour or so. So it's about 9:50 a.m. my time. So by 11 a.m. my time, that option will no longer be there. So if you haven't applied for a gift subscription, then I need you to do so right now. And if you have applied and you're getting an error, then I need you to email contact@bayyinah.com and say, I applied, but it was giving me an error, so that we can accommodate everybody, inshallah ta'ala, so that anybody that made the intention to study and you guys decided to honor me, to allow me to be your teacher, and you made the intention to dedicate yourselves to the language of the Quran, there's no barrier to entry. I've been doing this for a very long time. And I know one thing, there are two things that are, because, on the one hand, there's me who believes in this cause and believes in like finding inspiration in the Quran and sharing that with as many people as I possibly can before Allah takes this life and takes what's his, right? That's one part of who I am. And the other part of me is this like entrepreneurial side, this person who wants to run this organization and make it one day compete with Netflix. That's a part of my brain. And I want that because Muslim organizations should be powerful. And a Quran organization should be the most powerful. And why not? Why not? Why shouldn't we be influencers? Why shouldn't we be producing films? Why shouldn't we think that big? But we can think that big when we have collective support. I don't want to give you something that I don't believe is worth so much more, than what it costs. I know that the course that I'm teaching is worth thousands of times more, hundreds of times more than $100 a year or $112 a year. I know it's worth more, but that doesn't matter. What matters to me is what it will produce, what you will do with it, what I want from you. What I want from you is to have a vision of your own. I will learn this. I will learn it again and again until I master it. I will engage with the Quran again and again until I master it. Then I will share what I have learned with my loved ones. I will, if I have the natural ability to be a teacher, I will become a teacher. If I become versed in if I am blessed to be versed in two languages, then I will take this and start teaching it in a different language that Ustadh doesn't have access to, and I will teach it to people that could never have had access to it. I will be not only a recipient of this, I will become a carrier of this. Ta'allama al-Qur'ana wa 'allamahu, learned it and taught it, right? And I want that. I want in the next 10 years that the world looks different because of what we did here. The world has a different connection to the Quran because of you people, because you decided to study. Have that vision for yourself. Have that thought about yourself. Even if you didn't get to influence thousands of people or hundreds of people or dozens of people, if you got to only share the word of Allah with your siblings, that's more than before. Just with your neighbors, just with your friends, that's more than before. That's more Quran, that's more light in more hearts than there was before. When you're landing on a plane and you see like in the night and you see lights in the city, right? Think of those lights. Imagine that the world is in darkness and every heart that has Quran in it has a light. We want more lights turned on, right? I can only turn on so many. Then you guys can turn on so many more, and they can turn on so many more. Can you imagine what that does? Can you imagine how we can illuminate ourselves and others with the light of Allah Azza wa Jal? فَآمِنُوا بِاللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ وَالنُّورِ الَّذِي أَنزَلَ. It's not just a course for me. It's a cause. It's a mission. It really is a mission. It's a movement. And thousands of you, like the first day was 180,000 views? Who has 180,000 views on a 3-hour Arabic class? That sounds like insanity. But that happened. You know what that means? That means that we can do something with this, guys. We can do something big. And I can't do that on my own. Allah Azza wa Jal will give this thing, wings. He will have this take off if his kun is with it. His blessing is with it. And he will have you take off as remarkable students and inshallah contributors, writers, filmmakers, artists. How he makes you inspire the world with the Quran is going to be different from what I do. It's going to come out in different ways, but man, will it come out. I absolutely believe it. I'm going to leave you with this analogy. So I won't take grammar questions today. We'll leave that for tomorrow, inshallah. I'll leave you with this analogy. Allah sends water from the sky, yeah? And the earth turns green, and different color flowers, different kinds of trees. And when you travel to a tropical island, the plant life is different. And when you travel to a dry climate, the plant life is different, isn't it? It's the same water, but different plants are coming out of the earth. It's the same banana, but the taste of banana in Ohio is different from a taste of banana in Kuala Lumpur. Even if it looks the same, it tastes different. It's a sign from Allah. You know what it is? When water comes from the sky, different kinds of vegetation is produced, isn't it? Allah compares the Quran to water. He says, you know, he refers to this in the Quran. "I'lamu anna Allah yuhyi al-arda ba'da mawtiha." You know, you should know Allah gives life to the earth after it was dead. The Quran comes like rain, and it goes inside your heart and my heart, like the water goes inside the soil. And then that dead soil has a seed deep inside that had no life. But when the water touched it, something happened to it and it started moving and something started changing in it. So when the Quran went inside your heart and it went inside my heart, something started changing inside my heart. Something started changing inside your heart and it started changing something. And the change is happening inside and nobody on the outside can see. And then eventually a little tiny blade came out that didn't look even noticeable. But Allah knows that it's grown, that it's come from the depth of the soil and it's reached at least the surface. And then eventually a time will come when this will be a tree and it will give different kind of fruit. And next to it is another kind of tree with another kind of fruit. And there's a flower with a different kind of scent. Every one of those plants has a different function, has a different purpose, nourishes the world in different ways. And that's you. That's me. We're going to take inspiration from that same book. It's going to nourish all of our hearts, but the way that it manifests goodness in the world, the way that you will produce good, the things that you will do with that inspiration is going to be completely different, like a different plant. And that's people talk about nowadays how we want to, you know, protect the environment and have a greener earth, right? Well, let's protect the spiritual environment. Let's produce a more nourished earth with us. Let's do that. And I honestly, I don't teach Arabic study because I love Arabic. I teach Arabic because I love Quran. And it made me love Arabic. I just love Quran. And I want that for you. I want you to love Quran. The more you learn Arabic, the more I want you to love Quran. And because of you, people will look at you and say, man, if she can do it, if he can do it, man, I could do it too. How come they can do it and I can't do it? I can do it too. You become a source of encouragement for others. You become a support for others. You don't use this, what you learn, to make someone feel inferior. You learn this to make someone feel inspired. And man, does the world need inspiration today? Do we need hope today? Do we need something to look forward to today? This is really my vision. And that's why I have decided to just open sponsorship for any who apply. Again, we have about 1 full hour. So if you already applied, you're already in the queue. I have read your emails. I have cried over them. I have read the emails of you, those of you that are mothers of 5 and are struggling and have a job and are doing this program, and you go through recordings and you do all the homeworks and you cry to Allah and you're begging if you can get a sponsor. I've read those emails. I read the emails of those of you that accepted Islam when they were 16 years old and your parents still don't know. And you're studying this Arabic class in secret. You can't make a transaction because your parents will kill you. Because you're 18 years old, but you still live with your parents. And they'll be very hurt if they find out. So you need a sponsor. I've read them. I may not respond to all of them, but I've read them. And when I say I'm overwhelmed, that's an understatement. That to me is an understatement. So if I can help you learn, I will do it. And if you know, you not being able to pay a tuition will not be a reason why you're denied. Not while I'm running this thing. That's not going to happen, inshallah ta'ala. So yes, I do want the organization to be financially sustainable and successful and all of those things, but that comes from Allah. We show Allah our sincerity and Allah pours rizq from the sky, man. That's just how it is. That's just how it is. If you're not able to afford it, what I need from you is your dedication and your du'as. That's what I need. If you can't afford it, you can sponsor somebody. But inshallah, we'll talk about that at a later time. No big deal. We're not depending on it. Our dependence is up there. You know, even this place, this campus, For the longest time, I didn't do any raising of funds. Last year, I did it in Ramadan. I asked you guys to help contribute to help complete this building, because actually I was going to create educational programs, free educational programs for the world from here. But for the longest, we've been in this building for what, 6-7 years, even longer. And the local community, I've never asked them to, how at the masjid they make an announcement after Jummah, like, please donate generously, blah, blah, blah. Don't do it here. If you believe in what we're doing, you'll give anyway. And if you don't, it's okay. You came to pray. We're good. Alhamdulillah. That sounds insane, but that's actually faith. That's what faith is supposed to look like, at least to me. So that was my announcement. I feel really good about it. And I feel like, I don't want any part of Bayyinah to be not in line with my personal convictions. And this is my personal conviction. So I'm again grateful to all of you. I'm really excited about our start tomorrow. I'll mention one quick technicality, and inshallah I'll end this cast. So tomorrow, our team is probably going to get flooded with people asking for, I didn't get an email, I didn't get a confirmation, what's going to happen tomorrow, etc. So if they'll make a call, by late tonight, let me know where they stand and how things are going. If there are still many of you that are having trouble accessing, at least the first day or two of class moving forward, I'll still put on open social media. And then we can migrate over when everybody's comfortably in the system. So, but that's worst case scenario. So just stand by for my announcement on that, inshallah. I've given you the website. Those of you that are signed up already, you guys have the dream.bayyinahTV.com website. And we'll be on there too, but because there may be a shortage of access for some people and they're still going through technical issues, I'll still open it up, inshallah, until all of that's resolved, because I don't want anybody missing out on the work, and I also don't want to delay, because the iron's hot. You guys studied that stuff. 4 days is enough to forget enough. I need you to get back to work. So let's get back to work, everyone. Let's renew our intentions, and let's ask Allah Azza wa Jalla to bless this effort and to produce what seems like a seed today, to produce a forest like the world has never seen. Let's restore the place of the Quran in the world and have a small share in that. Barakallahu li wa lakum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.